So there's a school shooter with 250,000 followers on here, and I just found out that they exist and they follow me. So that was surprising. Here's how this is gonna work. I'm not gonna stitch them or tag them or say their name. You can figure it out all on your own. I blocked them. I am not participating in that, but I am going to discuss it. This video is not leading to a solution or even really a thesis. And quite frankly, if I had my way, all the black women's videos that I saw that helped inform me on this topic would be in front of you instead of me. But I recognize that I have a massive platform and feel the need to speak on this. If you have no idea, in 2004, this guy shot up a school. There's like text messages and there's evidence at the time that he was aiming for kids. He hurt some, but didn't kill any. He went to prison for 15 years on a 20-year sentence. At one point in this story, he gets attacked with swords. So he has like sword injuries up and down his arms. That's what I knew him from. I immediately recognized sword injuries to the arms guy because I've seen his videos before. But at no point in those videos had he, pointed out that he was a school shooter. Now, if you look through his profile, it's pretty easy. He's got it like pinned, and his bio is part of the problem, now part of the solution. And he's just got a bunch of videos talking about like reconciliation and trauma and stuff. He's been here for a while. And so I think the only reason that people started to put two and two together of who he was is because he started saying things like black people have it easier in the court system and white people can experience racism too because he got attacked with some swords. And I think people looked into that and went, who is this guy? And then they realized he's a school shooter who is trying to build a platform off of that. And he has been outstandingly successful in that regard. 250,000 followers. And not only that, if you Google him, you're not getting most of the stuff about what he did. You're getting new articles about his TikToks and like the incident through his point of view.
God, what is this world?
All right. I agree with every video I've seen about, there is need for reconciliation, but there's also things that someone can do that there is no reconciliation for. That if this person truly, in their heart of hearts, wants to make amends for what they did, they would be doing it quietly. They would be walking in silence. They'd be working with psychologists to figure out how to see the signs of others like them. They would not be using this for clout. I quite frankly don't care to hear his rationale for what he's up to. I don't care what he thinks in his head for why he did what he did, because I understand that nobody thinks themselves the villain. It is so rare for somebody to actually admit that they did something wrong and then to unpack that, and that is not what this guy is doing. Because I just don't think that you can unpack walking into a school with the intent to shoot children ever. I don't think that you can, especially not in 15 years. I don't think this guy has sat down and done the work and now he's ready to make amends. No, I think he just wants to be forgiven for what he's done, and he wants attention, and he wants money. Narcissism. I think narcissism is what led him to, when he was feeling very low, to take that out on other people. I think that narcissism has led him here. I think that he believes in his heart of hearts that he's a good person, and this is all part of that. And we've seen this time and time again on TikTok, where these men come forward who have done severe damage to women, and they think that by building a platform around that damage that they've done, that makes it okay. That, oh, well, I've acknowledged it. Narcissism more and more has become a cornerstone of the American experience, because our politicians are now at the point of just being malignant narcissists. Not even like back in the day where they kind of kept it to themselves. Now they just give grandiose speeches about how they're the perfectest being ever and no one ever anywhere has ever done anything as good as them, even when they fail time and time and time again. And the news eats it up. The news loves when these narcissists come out with their grand, ridiculous statements, because then the news gets to be like, look at this guy. And now the news has fallen onto this guy's perspective about the horrific crime that and trauma that he did to an entire school's worth of children who are still out here, having to now see his videos of this guy who traumatized them, being like, now I'm helping. But the thing is, I don't think that you can guilt a narcissist into stopping their horrific behavior. I mean, obviously, this guy was flying under the radar for a while. Didn't see anybody talking about him, and he had 250,000 followers, and he wasn't being quiet about who he was. But that wasn't enough. He had to start saying racist shit. If you watch this guy's videos, he's the victim, and he shows you his injuries. He goes, look at my arms. I got attacked with a sword. This guy wanted to kill me, and he focuses so much on that because it's easier to be the victim than the perpetrator, which he is. I don't want people to get attacked by swords. That's not my stance. But if I did something like that, I wouldn't be like, why did this happen to me? I'd be like, you know what? I have a feeling I know why this happened to me. I don't think that I'm a bad person. And whenever horrific things happen to me in my life, I go, oh, what if I was? What if this is karmic retribution? And I have to sit down and talk myself out of it. So it's kind of wild to me that this guy was sitting in prison for 15 years for one of the most horrific things a human being can do. And yet he's just like, oh man, I didn't deserve this though. Really? I didn't want to make this video because when I watch all these videos of these victims talking about how it feels to see someone who caused them harm, I started to draw parallels to, what I do. I talk about being a veteran, and there's a lot of people who do not like that about me. And I don't think those things are comparable, but my brain did it anyway. And I've had victims of the war on terror hate me, specifically, even though I was a medic, even though I think that I alleviated suffering. But they don't feel that way. And so I questioned, if my own platform. What I landed on is there's nuance here, and there's a huge difference between a singular person performing a singular crime and causing a lot of trauma, and being part of an institution that causes a large amount of trauma. And also intent. Because some people do harm by accident. Some people do harm because they don't understand the systems that they're a part of. Sometimes people do harm because of the traumas that have been hoisted upon them. And some people decide that they feel so low inside that they're going to pick up a weapon and they're going to cause harm to random children. And I think that's what the difference is. Some people build platforms around trauma based on things that millions of people have been a part of. And other people base their platforms on trauma that they themselves inflicted on others and then didn't do the work to come to terms with. And I think that extends to other things that would make people uncomfortable. I would rather see a police officer talking about what they experienced as a police officer and how that caused harm, as opposed to seeing someone who abused women building a platform off of that, which I've also seen. I'll listen to a politician who unpacks the ways that they caused harm in the policies that they supported or the policies they didn't support with the benefit of hindsight. And I believe in my core of cores that veterans should be given the opportunity to talk about the traumatic experiences they were a part of, because they were so much bigger than anything that they could have understood at the time that they were doing them. Even though I think it's weird, there's this woman and man who had a violent sexual experience between the two of them perpetrated by the man, and they travel the country and talk about it from the experience of either side. And even though I just think that's really weird, she's clearly decided that that's something that she wants to do, and she is the victim in that exchange. So even in that case, I'm like, all right, I'll listen to that. I don't think this guy should be platformed. I don't necessarily think he should not be allowed to have one. I just think that we as a society should agree not to listen to that guy. I also don't think that's going to happen, because like some people have pointed out, a lot of his fans are probably the same sort of people who would write love letters to serial killers. And since I think he's a narcissist who's not going to stop the harm that he's perpetuating, and I don't think that we can just keep him from being on the internet, the only thing you can do is talk about it. So I'm very grateful for all the videos I've seen from all the different perspectives on this. And I appreciate anyone who's gotten this far and listened to me talk about it. I think trauma and harm and reconciliation are all very nuanced, difficult topics, especially in a polarizing internet that we have now. And I think it's really important to recognize that narcissism doesn't stop. It just finds new ways to get the attention that it needs, regardless of who gets hurt.